Welcome to this week's episode of Being Human. We have a return guest this week in Alex Goldfayn. He's a multiple author, award-winning author, and runs a revenue growth consulting business, the work of which is to grow other people's businesses. Alex, welcome to the show.
Nice to see you, Richard. Thank you for having me on again. I would like to say that I am grateful for the opportunity.
Yes, and for those just listening,
have you ever seen anything cheesier?
Alex is wearing a Grateful Dude t-shirt, which is wonderful, and actually features in the book, his latest book, which we'll get into, five minutes selling.
Richard, I'm sorry, I have to say bye to my daughter, who's going off to her day of summer activities. So off
Goodbye.
She goes. And this is one of the twins.
Okay, and what's her name?
Her name is Bella.
Bella.
She can't hear you, but she can hear me.
Okay.
And pretty soon, I'm guessing the other twin will come rumbling in. So, okay, send Noah up, okay, honey? Okay. Sorry about
bye,
that.
Bella.
I don't know if you want to keep that or...
Yeah, no, we'll keep it. Keeping it real.
All right.
Okay. So we talked about, and why do I keep reading selling books? Why have I really enjoyed your work? I mean, it's because, and I think I will share this with many of the audience here, I hate selling, and I want to find ways to learn to love it, get better at it. So my opening question is, why do people hate selling? And how can they learn to love selling?
I think that, you have a group of people who we assume hate selling. So these are people who are expert at certain, have been trained into certain specific professions, like lawyers, like accountants. You will often hear from attorneys at law firms, I didn't go to law school to sell, dude. So, thanks, but no. That's not what I do. But the truth is, Richard, most people are like you. Most sales people don't like to sell, right? Those of us who sell for a living, it's not like a natural thing to do to convince somebody to give you money for something, And then even though it's like, one of the oldest professions in the world, right? And it makes the world go around. But the truth is, the reason most of us don't like to sell is fear. It's uncomfortable. And we get rejected all the time. In baseball, if you fail 70% of the time, you go to the Hall of Fame, right? And the U.S. baseball season is just starting right now. In sales, we fail more than that. Come on in here, honey. Here's the other twin. They're going off to their day of sailing on the lake, so that's why they look like this. So, have a great day, Noah. All right, have fun. Just the joys of working from home. Thank you for being patient with us. I'm sorry. They're used to dad working from home, so they just walk on in whenever.
Right.
So people, it's a fear of being rejected. We get rejected all day long, all the time. And in sales, like if we succeed 10% of the time and get rejected 90, you're probably doing really well, right? In most fields. And, that's success. That buys you a really good life in the sales profession. And, I know that you do leadership and you do coaching and you do development of people. And, that's great. But if you don't sell it, you can't do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to sell, and I run a consulting practice, and I have to sell. So when in the book in 5 Minute Selling, which is just out, I talk about salespeople in the inclusive pronoun. I talk about it in the we. We have to do this, we have to do that, because I'm right there, right? I'm with you. I got to do it too.
Right. So it's the fear. It's the fear of the rejection and the reality that, as you say, even if you're good at this, even if you're great at this, you may be failing or getting rejected 90% of the time.
Well, you can't get to the yeses without the no's,
right?
Really, if we're not hearing no a lot, we're not succeeding, which is kind of a weird way to think about it. The no's get you to the yeses. And so if you're just avoiding the no's, by habit, you're not trying for the yeses. So you can't succeed in sales if you're just avoiding the no's. And that's where the fear comes from, is from avoiding the rejection.
Right.
And that's why most people are uncomfortable with sales. And so, let me summarize my message back to you, Richard, is not only are you not alone, you're in the great majority. You're in the 90% of sales people who sell, right, who don't love selling.
Yeah. And then the second part is then, how do we learn to love it, right? Because I think for me, for many people maybe listening, even if they're not like salespeople in title, that they may recognize that being better salespeople is going to open up more opportunity for them. How can you learn to love it?
So it's a great question. I think success brings us there, to that point. I think sales success, which results from activity and action, leads us to a joy and an enjoyment of the work. So if you're trying to sell without a lot of activity, and of course, if you don't have a lot of activity, you're not going to have a lot of success. You're not going to have sales results. You're not going to enjoy yourself very much because you're going to feel like you're working really hard, right? I'm not really succeeding. So what the hell am I doing? And that's the position of the great majority of salespeople, interestingly, right? Because a lot of salespeople, we become, our fear moves us to inactivity, almost to a paralysis. And fear.
And in my case, it's to do anything else other than get on the phone or make the outreach call. Yeah.
Avoidant behavior. It's what you just said is the definition of procrastination, right? We don't want to do what we don't like to do. So we get really, really good at avoiding it, at avoiding that work. So I think success in sales begets more success, right? And I also think, unfortunately, the opposite circle, the vicious circle over here is inactivity and procrastination in sales begets more of the same, right? Because the more you avoid selling, the worse you feel, because the less business you have. And the less human contact you have, which is really interesting, right? I mean, this is called being human, right? And the less human contact we have, the more isolated we feel, especially now, right? When there's less human contact, there's less face-to-face contact, just because of the environment that we're living in the pandemic here. And we feel worse. We feel more fearful. We feel meek. We feel unsuccessful. We feel weighed down, and I mean, that's no mindset to sell successfully from. You're not going to pick up the phone with that kind of mindset. The opposite circle, the righteous circle, is let's make one phone call, and really 5-minute selling is all about 5 minutes a day. I know you don't like selling, or I know you don't have a lot of free time, because a lot of salespeople are really, really busy servicing the customer, where there's a lot of incoming calls, there's a lot of problems to solve, there's a lot of customer service to do. We have to do it. And so I know you're busy, or I know it's uncomfortable, but give me 5 minutes a day. Give me 5 minutes a day. Take the first action. 1, pick up the phone, call somebody and say, Richard, it's Alex. How you doing, man? Right? It's been a little while. I was thinking about you. How's your family? Tell me about your life, right? You're in London, not in London, but in the countryside, right? I'm in the Midwest in America. How are things there, right? Tell me what's happening. How are the kids, right? What are they doing this summer? I'll tell you a little about what mine are doing, right? Mine are going off to sailing. What are you working on these days, maybe, that I can help you with? After we connect on life, we pivot to, tell me what's going on that I can help with. I'd like to help you. I enjoy our relationship. How can I help? I mean, that's the call. That's the conversation, right? So now let's go to the pleasant circle. You do one of those, you have a good conversation with somebody. It feels good. It's positive. You connected with somebody. It's warm. you probably accomplished something. You probably progressed the relationship. You probably talked about some way you might work together, even if you didn't close it at the time. And chances are, if you didn't get business on that call with this person, eventually, probably it's going to develop, eventually. So you hang up the phone, you have all those feelings of positivity and confidence, right? An effusion of confidence. You feel good. What are you going to do? You're going to want a little more of that. You pick up the phone again. You make another call, and you feel good some more. And so coming all the way back around, success begets success. You know, good experiences, positive conversations lead us to want to do more of that. Whereas the other way, the avoidant way, repeatedly over time takes us away from the work that we should be doing.
Right. And that's actually what I love. I love about your latest book, because I've now read 3 of your books, and your advice is to take this tiny baby step. Just make one call a day is good. And I really appreciated that about the book, because having listened to other sales coaches, as they're all about massive action and don't have a minute of dead time in your diary. Pack every available minute with calls and meetings, and and you listen to that and you're like, it just feels like way too much of a leap. From where I am. So
if you call, so customers only call when something's wrong usually, right? That's when we hear from people. They have a problem, they have an issue. Conversely, most customers hear from us also when something's wrong, right? When something's on fire. Most people don't pick up the phone unless there's a terrible problem. I can't get it to you on time. I'm unavailable. The price went up. We don't have enough of what you ordered. So that's the only time people hear from salespeople usually, because most of us don't call out when nothing's wrong. We're not very good at that, right? Most of us don't do I call these proactive phone calls, right? Call a customer or prospect when nothing's wrong, right? That's what it is in the book, and for my clients as well. And so you said 1 call a day. You make 1 of those a day. You're looking at about 200 or so if we round down, right? Let's say you miss a bunch of days. You're at about 200 proactive phone calls, relationship building phone calls, warm phone calls, right? Nice connections with people where you're building a relationship. And you can have some repeats there in terms of people that you call, but that's 200 a year. That's about 200 more than most of us make, Now that's 1. Let's say it gets good to you and you make 2. Now you're at 400 a year, right? So that's how hard this is. And look, I do 5 a day, 5. And I don't necessarily make 5 actual outbound phone calls a day. What I do is I send 5 emails or text messages to see if we can schedule a call every day. And I always do that before 10 o'clock because I want to be done with it, right? Mark Twain said, if you have to eat a frog, do it first thing in the morning because it's not going to taste any better later in the day. Right?
That's of course you're French.
Yeah, that's right. And he said, if you have to eat 2 frogs, eat the biggest one first. Then save the smaller one for later. 5 quick outbound communications. This literally takes me no more than 5 minutes because I'm either texting or I'm emailing. And I say, hey, I hope you're well. I'd love to catch up. How's Tuesday or Wednesday? Or what do you have this week that looks good? Or, how does your afternoon look? And because I know these people, right? All of us know hundreds of people. We all have hundreds of people who know our names and whose name we know, right? If you're just starting out and you're brand new and you say, I don't know hundreds of people, well, you're working at a business, call somebody who recognizes the company name, right? If you just started your own business and nobody knows your name or the company's name, call people you knew at the other company, right? So we all, don't tell me you don't know lots of people to call. Everybody knows lots of people to call. Call people who know your name, or text or email to schedule those calls. You do 5 of those a day, you're going to have hundreds of phone calls over the course of a year. And there's no way your business won't grow. No way.
No, yeah. And the call. So I been reading your book over the last couple of days, and I was speaking to a colleague of mine, and was talking about your book and how you emphasize the importance of calling. And he said to me, I know I probably should, but I'm like, I'm a bit worried, am I going to interrupt from with their family time? And we do have this aversion to picking up this little device, don't we? So why is it so important? I suppose, again, it's a similar format of question. Why do we not like calling, and why is it important to call over any other form?
So we don't like calling because we don't like to be rejected into our ear hole, right? Because it's an intimate rejection, right? If I'm talking to you and you say, no, I'm good, you've rejected me into my brain, into my head. I'm thinking about, I don't even know if I should say this. I just recently watched the Richard Pryor stand-up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is very famous with the monkeys.
Right.
He had 2 pet monkeys. So I'll stop it there. But that's what I just thought about being rejected into my ear. So we don't like the phone because it's an intimate rejection. It's a very personal rejection. Conversely, if I send an email, right? Even if I don't know if they got the email, even if I don't know if they read the email, even if I don't know if it went into their junk folder, even if I don't know if they processed anything, even if I don't know if they read it, but they're not getting back to me because they hate me. I don't know any of that, right? But I could be thinking of all of them as options. Even if I don't know anything, I've sent my email and I've succeeded, right? And people aren't likely to reject us by email, are they? They just don't reply, right?
Yeah.
So it's a gentler rejection, right? It's a silent rejection, and our brains will play tricks on us and say to us, well, we're still alive, right? I haven't heard anything, so this is still alive. So we move away from the phone to email, to LinkedIn, to Facebook, all this, sort of useless communication, right? Valueless communication, because it's less dangerous to our mindset, to our psychology, and the phone call is more dangerous.
Right. And then why is it important? I know you say in the book, but I think for our listeners, why the phone especially? Why is it more useful to use it?
In the 1970s and 80s, the telephone was the only tool that we had. Now they didn't look like our phones look now, but they were wired and connected into a wall. And it's funny, I do workshops, Richard, and I put up a wired telephone, and there's at least a handful of people in the room that have never seen the device. People don't know what it is. Well, I've seen it in the movies. I've seen it at grandma's house, right? But that's where it goes. It's important. Back then, it was the only tool, and so everybody used it. Now, today, it's one of many, many ways we can communicate. And I would suggest probably 10% of all salespeople, all industries that and I worked with thousands and thousands of salespeople, right? 10% probably use the telephone, period, right? Not well, or not the way it's supposed to be used, but period. Use the telephone for proactive, outbound revenue growth, right? But nothing's wrong. Now, everybody uses the phone to solve problems and do customer service. And, certainly the customer calls me at night, I pick up the phone, or I'm on vacation with my wife and the customer has a problem. Well, I'll pick up the phone. We do that. That's different. That's reactive work, right? That's customer service work. That's taking orders. All of us are very good at taking orders. Very few of us are good at proactive sales generation, creating money where there is none. That's the work. And if you can get good at it, you're instantly in the top 10%, right? And let me connect it to our times, if I may, now also. The vast majority of our customers, whatever industry we're in, whatever, I know a lot of our listeners are in coaching and leadership development and in consulting, right?
Yeah,
like you and I are. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And then the tech space, we have a lot of people in coders. Yeah.
Good. So we're all, you and I and our listeners are all sort of consultants selling services, right? We could be coaches, we could be trainers, we could be leadership development, but we're in the B2B service space. Fair?
Yeah.
With executives, with leaders, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. the vast majority of our clients and prospects, and I'm going to switch from customers to clients now, right? Because that's what we use. That's ours. The vast majority of our clients and prospects are not in meetings, not traveling. They're not running around. What are they doing, Richard? Just like you and I are, they're sitting at their desk, right? Probably at home. Maybe they're at the office. If they're at the office, they're one of the only ones at the office, right? They're at the office because they're an executive, right? Or they run the place, or they're the owner. That's why they're at the office, because most people aren't. They go there to escape people, right? So there's no meetings. There's Zoom, right? There's phone calls, but they're all sitting at their desk, and they're eminently reachable. They've never been more reachable, right? Our customers have never been more reachable. Further, not only have they never been more reachable, they're hearing from people less than ever. So they're more available than ever. Nobody's calling because of everything we're talking about here, the fear and discomfort, right? They're sitting there in silence, not hearing from anybody. And I got to tell you, many of my phone calls, many of my clients, salespeople's phone calls, because I work with groups of salespeople, sales organizations. I've probably heard this 4 dozen times over the pandemic period. When they call, when we call our clients, they will say to you some version of, well, you're the only one who cares because nobody else is calling me, right? Or your competition must not care because they're not calling me, right? He goes, it's amazing. One of my clients said, this cell phone, because this is the first time this rang today, right? And everybody's on their cell, so we need a cell phone. That's why the telephone's so important. You're going to be the only one. And help people through this time, they're going to remember you forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a very powerful point. The other thing you said about, which I like as well, is that they can hear, you can hear the tone of their voice, which of course you can't on an email, and they can hear your voice, right? There's something special. They can hear my voice.
I mean, there's about 25,000 things I can do on the telephone that I can't do by email, not the least of which is I know whether we connected or not, which by email I have no idea, right? I know either they received the call or they didn't, right? And that's valuable. I mean, it sounds absurd. It sounds like it's like a second grade level conversation we're having right now. But, so many salespeople just have no idea. Listen, if you're in consulting and you're in training like we are here, it's so easy to stand out from the crowd, I'm not saying that we should care more. I think we care enough. I'm saying we should communicate that we care more. That's the work. This 5-minute selling, this new book, that's what it's all about. It's about communicating that we're interested in helping our clients. That's it. And they want that from us. The tragedy here is people want to be helped. Nobody's going to say to you, no, I don't want you to make my life easier today, right? Nobody says that. What they say is, oh my God, thank goodness for you. You're trying to help me. I don't have anybody else like this. That's what people think. And they want that from us. And they want to give us their money for it. How amazing is that? And in turn, we sit in our little fearful, stupid bubble, right? And we all go through this. I mean, I write books about it. I deal with this too. I deal with the fear of this. And we don't call them, and we don't try to help them, and they don't get what they need from us, and they don't get what they want from us, and we don't get to feed our families as a result. We don't get the money that we deserve, that our families deserve. So it's all like one big cluster. It's all one big psychological, crap show. When if we pick up the phone and reach them and call them and try to help them, they're good, they're happy, and they pay us. So what are we doing? What are we talking about? Why have I written 4 books about this? It's not that hard, right? But even for me, I go to the phone and it's hard for me.
Right. but the other thing that you're the personification, right, of this abundance mindset we talk about, and of optimism, of enthusiasm, of confidence, which you talk about, right, in the book. So that's the other question for me: is how can we get what you just personified, what you just exemplified? That, I guess, that just fulsome enthusiasm for
what are you saying?
Fulsome, yeah,
That's a great word.
The contribution you can make, right? I mean, how do you get to that?
Interestingly, the answer to your question is the same as the answer to growing sales, is the same as everything we're talking about here. You get to it by having good conversations with your happy customers and your happy clients. So literally, the phone call is the answer to build up your mindset, to gain positivity, to become more confident, to become proactive, to become positive, to become grateful, right? To become grateful. The phone call is the answer. Connection and success. Small successes. The cool thing about 5-minute selling and the whole approach is it's a system of outbound proactive communication, business building, right? It's a system. And the successes come quickly is the good thing. And this fulsomeness, if I understand it correctly, if that's a word,
I'll Google it. I think it is.
Okay, good, thanks. As long as you're kind of the decider, it's your podcast.
Saying it is.
As long as I think we see some success, because the success comes quickly. I can ask you a did you know question. Well, Richard, did you know that I can do what used to be a 6 or 12-month project? I've rolled out in the pandemic a 30-day program. That's like a rocket boost for your sales growth. A rocket boost. It's 30 days, and that's 6 to 12 months, right? And it costs a lot less. And we do it remote, and it's going to take a lot less time for you to get to active, quick sales growth, right? There's my did you know question. That took me 15 seconds to say. It doesn't take too many of those to get into a conversation about it and start exploring it. And that's a success, right? Compared to procrastinating, right? And not picking up the phone, exploring a possible consulting project, even though it's quick, it's small, it's an easy yes, my easy yes. It doesn't take too many of those tries, so success comes quickly. So that success is the way you get to that positive mindset.
Right. Now let's just pause on something you said there, and it features, central to the book, this "did you know" question, and you just gave us an example. So let's just expand on that a bit for the audience.
Sure. The vast majority of your clients, our listeners, I'm talking to them now. The vast majority of our clients, they don't know even some of the things that we can do for them. They only know the thing that we talk with them about. And so we think about all of our stuff all the time, and because we're in that world all the time, we assume they also think about our stuff all the time. Well, they don't. What are they thinking about? They're thinking about their stuff, right? And so the did you know question informs our clients and prospects about various different things that we can help them with, right? Did you know that I do keynote speeches? Well, did you know that I do workshops? Well, did you know now in the pandemic, I can do a webinar series for you? Did you know I have a 30-day version of what is normally a 6 to 12-month project? These are my did you know questions. And what the research shows us, statistically, we know that 20% of those will eventually turn into a piece of business.
Right.
20%. So ask 5 did you know questions, and you're bound to sell 1 over time, eventually. Not perhaps at the moment, but in time. 1 out of 5 will become new business, which means ask 50, get 10 pieces of business. And remember, it took me 15 seconds, right? So, and that was long because I was drawing out the example. And so 50 times 15, I think, is 750 seconds, which is something like, 13 minutes, right? Something like that, or 12. And so in 12 minutes, I can ask 50 did you know questions, right? But in 5 minutes, let's say, I can ask 20 did you know questions. And my 20 did you know questions, 20% of those become new line items. So in 5 minutes, eventually I'm going to get 4 pieces of business. So that's how this works. It's about systematically, again, the book is a system for selling more. If you ask one did you know question, you're probably not going to get that piece of business because you haven't asked enough, right? We said the no's bring us to the yeses, right? You haven't gone through enough no's yet to get to a yes. One, when you think about it, it's not going to do the trick. The key is to ask everybody all the time. And if you think about it, if you just do 5 minutes of did you know questions a day, that's a lot of did you know questions, right? Yeah. That'll take you to 6 times 30, 35 did you know questions in a day. That's a lot. 20% close. There are 6 pieces of business. You're welcome, right? That's it. Stop the podcast and go make some calls. Go ask some did you know questions.
Yeah.
Not you, the listener.
No, I'm taking that. Yeah, and you talk about the system, right? It's not a music. You talk about, it's the system that's important over individual actions. And I have to say for myself, this is something and a lesson for me, right? I can have kind of good days and bad days. Sometimes I'm feeling fired up, and I'll make a few calls, so that it'll be days and days until I do anything again. But you really lay out, right? But what I like about the book is it's super low barrier to adoption, right? It's a little bit of time up front, just a tiny bit of action each day, and then a reflection in the end. But just take us through the bones of the system.
Good. So in 5-minute selling, there are 2 planners and then 2 trackers, and that's where we write things down, or you could make it a PDF and fill it out if you want. And so the first planner is your proactive call planner. And here, there's 8 different categories of people that you can call, customers and prospects. And I'll just give you a couple of them. Good customers who can buy more from us, right? Good clients who can buy some more from us. Clients, or even past clients, who we haven't talked to in 3 months or more. That's a fantastic group of people to call, people we haven't connected with in 3 months or more. And if I asked you right now, think about, list 10 people you haven't talked to in 3 months or more. You can't do it because off the top of your head, because they're not in our head, right? That's by definition. We're not thinking about them. They're not thinking about us. You can't do it. So I think many times we don't make our calls because we don't know who to call. We don't spend just a few minutes thinking about it. We don't make calls because we're not sure who to call. And so if we spend 5 minutes on this one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, right? And you could print them up on my website when the book launches, if it's launched. And you write down some names of who to call at the beginning of the week. And then every day the rest of the week, send those emails and texts to schedule your calls, or simply pick up the phone and call them. There is no way that your business won't grow. There's no way your sales won't grow. And I'll tell you the other, the tracking, that's the planning. The tracking is, I want you to write down what you did. And so there's a tracker that you can print up where you have the date. Who did you reach out to? What did you say? What did you say? What did they say? So we talked about this possibility. They reacted this way. And then there's a dollar column. I want you to write down how much you think it's worth. Right. Because I want you to connect your 30-second action to how much money it can make for you. Because that's pretty cool. And these pieces of paper with the tracking, well, they become a gold mine for you to follow up on. One piece of paper has like room for 15 entries, I think. It becomes a gold mine for you to follow up on and look at, imagine going back 6-7 weeks, saying all these opportunities you talked about that week. Well, now I'm going to follow up and reach out to those people. So we need to quickly plan and then quickly do. Not plan for hours and days, because planning doesn't make us any money, right? The doing makes the money. So quickly plan, quickly do, track what you did so you can follow up on it, and go. Just the whole point of the book is to get people who sell to fast action, quickly taking action, which can make a whole lot of money for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. And again, I like it because the time slots, I can handle the thought of spending 5 minutes on a Sunday evening doing this, right? I can handle the thought of 1 or 2 calls a day. And I'm sold on the fact that I can really see this adds up, the cumulative impact of this if you stick to it.
The book has a 2-week challenge in it where you can download these planners and these trackers, and I actually make an assignment in the book, right? Give me 5 proactive calls, give me 5 did you know questions this week, and if you give me 5 minutes a day for those 2 weeks, which is 10 business days, right? Which is 50 total minutes, 50 out of 80 hours, because it's 2 weeks, right? Give me 50 minutes out of your 80 hours. And you will see results. You will, if not new done sales, you will see a whole lot of new opportunities for potential sales. You will see a whole lot of sales progressed towards a close. 5 minutes a day, 2 weeks, 50 minutes out of 80 hours. You will see a lot of progress and a lot of good success.
Right. I always think your book could be called, Selling for People Who Hate Selling.
Right. Well, the subtitle is like, even if you don't have time, right? How to dramatically grow your sales, even if you don't have time. So you could switch that to how to dramatically grow sales, even if you don't like selling. Right. It's funny.
Yeah. Okay. And then let's actually just briefly touch on, so we talked about optimism, enthusiasm, confidence, and it's just more of these calls are going to build that. Gratitude and perseverance are the other 2 elements, aren't they? The mindset. Should we just touch on those briefly?
Yeah, sure. So gratitude, study after study finds that grateful people outperform those who don't have gratitude. And, look, even if we're struggling, and a lot of us are struggling, it's a tough time. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of consultants are struggling. A lot of clients are struggling. We get to struggle, right? How lucky are we that we get to try to make it better? We could be living in a lot of countries. You live in the UK, I live in the US. We could be living in a lot of countries where struggle doesn't get us out of our problems. Struggle doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you try in many countries in the world, right? You can't fix it in many places in the world. You and me, we could fix it, man. I was born in the Soviet Union. My parents dragged me to the U.S. when I was 2 years old. And if they didn't do that, I'd still be living there, where the average monthly government salary is $150 a month. And if I would try hard and work hard and effort and persevere, it wouldn't matter. So even when there's struggle, we get to struggle and make it better. And so, look, I'm grateful for the no's because they get me closer to the yeses. I'm grateful for the yeses because they feed my family. When I'm not feeling it, and there's days I don't want to. I'm grateful for even the possibility of having a phone next to me. I could pick it up. I could call somebody. Right? I'm grateful for trying to overcome the not feeling like it, because there's plenty of days like that. If you actively seek gratitude, I think you'll find yourself, at the end of it, more successful. You'll find yourself selling better, and I think you'll find yourself happier, frankly, right? Grateful people are happier people. And grateful and happy people outperform ungrateful and unhappy, frustrated, angry people. So, and by the way, in sales, I think the opposite of gratitude is not being ungrateful, it's being cynical. Cynicism is the opposite of gratitude in sales. And we see cynicism develop among salespeople as they spend more years in the profession.
Yeah. And then perseverance, the 5th of the 5 you mentioned.
Perseverance is, and I think the 5 are from the chapter on mindset, right?
On mindset. Yeah.
So Selling Boldly, the Orange Book, was all about mindset. And then 5 Minute Selling, we get to the action and the activity very quickly. But you still have to, in sales, when we sell, it's impossible to outsell our mindset. You can't do it. You can't outsell your mindset. So that's why every work of mine that touches sales does deal with mindset. So perseverance might be the single most important quality in sales success. I think Thomas Edison said, and I think I have this right, he said, many of life's failures never know how close they are to success when they give up. So you never know when the next step is going to be the one that does it. And if you've already been rejected by somebody 8 times, a 9th rejection is literally the same. It's no worse. What's the difference between 8 or 9? I've lost nothing between the two, right? I had nothing 8 times. I have nothing 9 times. Oh, well, right? So no never means no forever. It only means not at this moment. And I've had entire years in my business. So when in normal times, I can really only bring on 1 new client a month because my projects are long and I work by myself. I work solo. But I've had entire years where every single person who started working with me had previously told me no, had rejected me. And so if I didn't persevere, I literally would have made no money that year. If I had given up at every no, right? I would have had a 0 year. And I think again, baseball starting up in the U.S., so I'm thinking about sports. And I know aren't they doing football in Britain right now?
Yeah, we've started with the soccer. Yeah.
Thank you. See, I said football and you said soccer, so thanks for putting it that way for me. On every team, there is an athlete who is less fast and less strong and less athletic and less naturally gifted, outperforming his or her teammates who are more strong, more fast, more gifted naturally, outperforming them. And the reason that happens is perseverance. They outwork them. They've had to work harder their whole lives, right? Because they're not naturally gifted. Whereas the naturally gifted people, they don't have to work as hard their whole lives. And so one figures out hard work, the one who perseveres, and the other doesn't. And so every team has players like that. In America and U.S. football, it's Tom Brady. The quarterback of what now, no longer the New England Patriots, but 6-time Super Bowl champion, for God's sake. 6-3 in Super Bowls in his career. 6-3. My Bears have only been to 1. My Chicago Bears have been to 1 Super Bowl. This dude, 6-3, right? And he probably has one of the weakest arms in the NFL. He's probably the slowest dude in the NFL. He's also 41 or 42 years old, for goodness sake, in a league where the average age is 23. So talk about outworking everybody, right? Hard work and continuing to work hard in the face of failure, which is perseverance, right? Which is one is never enough. And just remember, again, the no's get us to the yeses. We cannot succeed without hearing a lot of no's.
Right. And I see how these fit each other, right? Because if you can develop gratitude for the no's, then that's going to help you with your perseverance, right?
Because I know I'm getting closer to the yeses.
Yeah.
Right? Well, he told me no. Great. I'm almost there. It's almost done.
Yeah. And then if I persevere more, I'm going to have more success, which means I'll be more optimistic, more enthusiastic, and I'll develop my confidence.
I think it's critical to work this out in our mind, and I think it's critical to believe these things because it's really hard to succeed without them in our profession and the work that we're doing. I think we've got to be clear on these things that we're talking about. It's interesting to me because the whole book is about action, but you've been asking me about mindsets pretty much the whole interview. You've been asking me about one of the 40 or so chapters in the book, right? And I have little short chapters, a page or two each. So it's interesting that's where we spent our conversation, right? That's how important this is.
Well, it is, and I think it's a personal motivation for me because I know that I struggle sticking to these actions. So it can't just be, well, I need to try harder at the actions, right? There must be my relationship to these actions that I need to work on. That's the way I see it.
You're exactly right. And what you just said is the reason that most, personally, most new habits don't stick. Diet, weight loss, and so forth. And company-wise, if you think about your clients, if you're trying to make corporate change, it's the reason that most organizational change doesn't stick. It's that the vast majority of people do it by trying to grind through the action. Just do the work. Just do it. This is what I got to do. Every day, I got to do this. It doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is all of that behavior follows mindset. It all follows psychology. So we've got to get the psychology right. We've got to be clear on what we're doing, how we're doing, why we're doing it. And once the psychology is right, once you have, the perseverance piece understood, the gratitude piece understood, all of that stuff becomes easier to do. So when I work with my clients, we probably spend 60 or 70% of the time when I'm teaching this on mindset, on the emotional piece, because the actual things to do, they already know all of those. If you're in sales, you know how to make a phone call, for God's sake. You know what to do. But it's the mindset. We've got to get the mindset right, and then it's easier to do the work over time, right? And that's why I'm trying to go at it, 5-minute selling. It has to feel like it's so simple and so easy and so fast that how can I not do it? And so I need people to take a step. I need one step, and then you'll feel a little positivity and success, and then you'll take another step. So literally with this book, I'm trying to take your foot, and I'm trying to put my hands around your ankle, and I'm trying to lift it for you and move it a step. That's what I'm trying to do. Right,
and that's what I think is so powerful, because I think it's this marriage of the right mindset and a viable first action, like a viable first step. And I think for so many selling books, that the first step is just not viable for some people. It's just too much of a leap. It induces too much anxiety. And so this is brilliant. I've heard people talk about, if you want to get into meditation, if you can meditate for 3 seconds, if you can just stop, you've started. Yeah. Start with 1 second a day.
Yeah.
Right? If that's all you manage, you started a meditation habit. So you're saying something. If you one call a day, right, you've started a sales habit.
That's right. You've started a proactive selling habit.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so for people, and so when we release this podcast, the book should be out, so they'll be able to find it on Amazon.
Yeah, everywhere. It's published by Wiley, so it'll be anywhere you can buy a book. And I'd be grateful if you read it, and I'd sure as heck be grateful to hear from you if you're listening to this. And just my email's all over the place. It's in the book. It's all over my website. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear your progress, and I'll do my best to reply to all of them.
Excellent. And there's a website associated where you can download the trackers.
Yeah, if you go to my website, goldfayn.com, is my last name. So GOLDF like Frank, AYN like Nancy, doesn't quite roll off the tongue. Goldfayn.com is my website. If you go there, you'll see a link to the book, big and yellow and bright. And you can download the planners and the trackers that we talk about there. And, in the book, it tells you exactly how to do that as well.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, thanks once again. Great conversation.
You, Richard. It was great to talk with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.